Hi all, this is Echo from Outer Loop Games, and I'll be on Gamertag VR Developer Report talking about Falcon Age, and bird handshakes, and other things. Come join us. Thanks.
So what's up everyone, my name is GT from Gamertag VR, and I want to welcome you all to a brand new virtual reality show for 2019 and the first episode of the GT VR Developer Report. Hey! This show is... nutters. This show is all about bringing you that little bit closer with amazing developers that brings us unforgettable games and experiences, all thanks to their hard work and belief in virtual reality. So with us today is our live studio audience of VR enthusiasts and excellent content providers, and they're ready with some questions for our guest today. Thank you guys for coming. Really appreciate it. Thank you. And that brings us to this week's Developer of Honor from Outer Loop Games. Please welcome Eka. He's here to talk about Falcon Age.
Whee! Hello!
Hello! Where's the claps?
How you doing today, Eka? You all good?
I'm all good. Yeah, this is cool, guys.
Excellent, man. I like the bird.
The bird is awesome.
Has the bird got a name?
So that's the one cool thing about the game is you get to name the bird depending on how you do in the game. So.
And what's your name?
Like that.
What's your bird's name?
I can't tell you that one. You have to play the game.
No worries, man. So just for a brief minute, I want to take it back a little bit to basically find out how you got into developing games in virtual reality, if that's okay.
Oh, sure. Well, virtual reality, I've been doing VR games for the last 3 years. But before that, I've been making games for about 20 years.
Wow.
So I'm an old fart in game dev. I started at a place called Bethesda. You know, you guys are probably familiar with that.
I think we've heard of them, yeah, just a wee bit.
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
I worked there. The last thing I worked on was Morrowind. So before, you know, Skyrim and Fallout and all those things. So it's a great time there. A lot of the people I worked with back then are still there. It's a great company. So I worked on them. Then I worked on some other PlayStation games and Xbox and PC and then VR for the last 3 years. Our first VR game was called Wayward Sky for PlayStation VR.
Yeah.
Point-and-click adventure game. Yeah. And then, in the same team, we followed that up with Dino Frontier, which is like a city builder with dinosaurs.
Excellent.
And
that was
then,
good game as well. I like that.
And then the same small team, we started Outer Loop last year, and now we're working on Falcon Age.
Oh, fantastic! So, what was the idea behind the Falcon Age in itself? What was like the inspiration of it in the beginning?
The inspiration was YouTube. There's this YouTube clip. It's been around for a while, but it was a golden eagle flying off a cliff, trying to pick up a mountain goat off the side of a cliff. And it was so big and heavy, it just drops it, and it just tumbles down and has this little battle with it. And I was like, oh, that'd be interesting. You know, no one's really done anything with that. And then we thought, you know, how could that work in VR? And then I kind of looked up more stuff on falconry and did a bunch of research, and we decided to prototype it. That's how it started.
Wow. So is it Outer Loop your company, or is it a new company, or?
It's my company, but it is new. Yeah, we just started the company about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that's a big undertaking for sure.
Mm-hmm.
How many people are on your team?
There's 7 of us, and we work all remotely. So you know, we work through Slack, and we have a Zoom chat room. That's our office essentially. So, but most of us are in the Seattle, Washington area.
Yeah. So, if you could tell me a bit about Falcon Age, as in the premise of the game, what would you expect people to experience, or what would you want them to experience when they play the game?
So, I mean, the biggest thing about it is that it's about you and your pet companion, the falcon, and that's sort of been our focus. And I think that's what the thing that people are responding to. It's a little baby bird, and all the things you can do with it, and and fist bumping, and so that's sort of the basic. Is that, you know, how can we make a game about a bird companion, and what can you do as a player do, and what can the bird do? So mechanically, that's what we're working with. But as a game, it's about you. Your character's name is Ara. She lives on a planet that's been colonized by these robot colonizers. They've been there for years, so it's your culture has kind of been died out over the years, and you come from a long line of falcon hunters. So when you start the game, in a prison because you've done some stuff in a colonizer prison, and then part of it is you friend the bird and teach the bird how to fight and hunt, and then with your bird you escape the prison. And also kind of rediscover your culture, and then you meet up with your auntie who's in the trailer, who's part of the resistance, and you help fight back.
Man, that sounds awesome.
That sounds cool. Like a lot of good story as well. I really like nice story.
Yeah,
so it's a single player. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
I mean, it's a single player story game, but it's not linear. It opens up, so there's sort of a sandboxy areas you can go through. There's certain areas that are locked off till you get the right equipment for the bird. And then there's farming and hunting in between, and running little quests.
Sounds amazing.
It does sound really good. Yeah. So the other day, just in a little conversation, we spoke about control methods and locomotion. So can you touch on that for us? Because you said there was a lot of variations of movement in the game.
Right, so this is our third VR game as a team, so we've had time to mess with different locomotion methods and things. For Wayward Sky it was point and click, so the cameras the cameras are fixed in the world, and the character moves through the space because it's third person. For Dino, we did a whole thing where you're essentially grabbing the world and shifting and moving yourself around a lot, and rotating.
Yeah, godlike sort of thing.
Yeah, you're godlike, so you're moving a table around, and we did a bunch of things to make that comfortable. And I get motion sick still, so that game I can play for 4 or 5 hours and be fine with it. So for Falcon Age, we knew it was going to be first person and more immersive. We wanted to make sure that for people that want just regular FPS locomotion, that it's there. For me, I use teleshift when I play, and we have quick turns and things like that, but you can fully customize it. So if you're playing with a PlayStation VR headset and move controllers, you can move like in Skyrim, where you can, and free rotate and walk through the world. If you don't have controllers, you can play with a DualShock and use standard FPS controls, and still with PSVR. And if you take the PSVR headset off, it's a fully 2D game too, fully screen game. So you have standard FPS controls and just like a Firewatch type game. And then we do a whole thing where we have 4 different control scheme character models too. So for things you do in VR, it's fully animated in the non-VR version.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and everything in between. So.
And also, I liked you touched on the teleportation. You've got a new method of when you teleport.
Right. So we want to give you the sense of walking. So you hold a button down on the move controller, the move button, and it draws a line, just like in Rec Room. When you let go, you teleport that. You tell a shift, so you slide to that location. When you hold the button down. Yeah. So when you hold the button down to teleshift, you can rotate your wrist, like I'm doing right here. That is the facing angle of where you end up. So if I'm facing forward, it'll face me forward. If I'm rotating to the right, I'll end up rotating this way. Or twist my hand to the left, rotating this way. I've gotten so used to it now, I miss it. I wish Rec Room had it.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like that in any game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds really good. So you were saying, so basically the whole game is supported in VR and non-VR. And what other platforms is it coming to?
Right now we're focused on PlayStation, so it'll be PlayStation first. We do want to bring it to every other platform too.
Excellent.
As much as we can. I mean, we're a small team, so we're kind of focusing on PlayStation first, and then making that really solid, and then think about other platforms after.
What was the decision behind coming to PlayStation first?
It's my third game with them. I really like working with the PlayStation crew. So it was just an easy thing. As I was starting the company and pitching the game around to different publishers, it made sense to work with them again because I was just very familiar with them, and it's been a really good experience.
Yeah, so I guess you're really adjusted to the Q&A process that I guess is kind of a hit for some people that come from PCVR to putting a game on PSVR. There's a lot of rings to jump through. Maybe they're not used to that as you are, obviously.
Right. I mean, I'm an old guy, so like having done like PlayStation 2 and it's I was already used to it. But yeah, if you're going from PC to console development, Xbox and PlayStation, it takes a little more time to get through the process and make sure everything works and doesn't crash and all those things. So.
Yeah, for sure. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to hand you over to our beautiful audience, if you don't mind.
Of course.
So if I'm going to go from right to left, if you want to start,
if you want
Jim,
to.
You got
Fantastic.
it. Superb, man.
Yep. Look at the catch. What a catch.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good to see like more sort of original ideas coming out on the PSVR and any game development in general, and thinking outside the box. I love that. I'm going to ask a question that I'll probably ask a lot, but in the game is there themes of like music, or is it like generative music? Does it change throughout the game, or is there moments where it kind of stays a sort of type of theme or a genre or
scripted moments?
Okay, so the themes change throughout, right? So there's your main character's theme, you have your bird theme, and if you're in the prison, essentially, like there's a whole different theme. Like as you move through the space and based on events, we do change the music throughout.
Fantastic, because it really adds a lot to the game when you do that.
Right, and then I mean there's like 16 different themes, and then there's areas in between that change dynamically depending on the event. So if you're off hunting, right, there's a certain theme that plays. And when you're talking to your auntie, there's a certain theme that plays. When you're talking to the shopkeeper, there's a certain theme that plays.
Ooh.
And then when you go into combat and you haven't engaged, there's a certain sort of theme. And then when you engage with an enemy, then we ramp that up and down. So there's yeah. I have a really good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I mean, we have a good sound designer and musician that are helping to make sure all that works well. So the music is a very important part for me too.
It's key. Yeah, it's key. Yeah. Right, I'll pass this to Sherwin.
You got it.
Triangle.
Go, let's try it. Oh well, there you go.
Nice job.
Oh, hello, sir.
Hello.
What I would like to know is whenever I watched the trailer, it appeared as if every feather on the bird had its own physics.
Yeah.
Is that true?
So, if you think about, so we do have a very custom feather shader, right? That responds to every finger on your hand, on both hands. So, like we have these little colliders on every knuckle, on your palm and your thumb. So like the shader responds to that, and it responds to wind and things like that too. So yes, but it's very custom. It's not like putting it's not the same as if you were going to make like 1,000 different objects in Rec Room, right? Like it's optimized to be a group of feathers. So, but it will respond to each of your finger touches and things. So.
Because I could see as you moved your finger through it, the feathers moved.
Yep. I mean, that was, we're doing a game about birds and feathers, so we feel like we need to get the feathers to look pretty good, right? Hopefully.
Absolutely. It's great. It's great looking.
Also, there are glamour, figure bird, different costumes, little cowboy hats and such. But I did not see a falconer's hood.
Yeah.
Is there one in the game?
There is one in the game, yeah. So that's I've been going back and forth on that. One of the reasons we made it also, we set it in a fictional world because also our falcon is not a typical falcon. It's a mixture of a golden eagle, a hawk, and a falcon. And at PAX recently, we had 5 different falconers come by the booth and play the game. and they loved it. They're like, "Oh, we get it. It's cool. It's fictional bird, but we got the sound right, and we got the sort of the flavor of falconry right." So we're definitely taking liberties with it. I didn't want to put a hood on the bird. Just in this world, you don't have to have a hood. So
yeah.
But we do have different helmets. We do have different helmets that kind of look like hoods. So.
It would only be to acclimate to humans anyway. And since it's acclimated, no reason for it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Shaolin.
Amazing
Great
show.
question.
I apologize.
Hey, I just had a few questions about like your inspirations for the game. Obviously, you said something about the YouTube and falconing, but were there any? We see a lot of AI partners in a lot of different games, and this one also has like the whole Tamagotchi thing going on, where you got the bird is kind of like your pet, and you have to take care of it and everything. Was there any particular video games that inspired like some of the gameplay that we see in the game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of The Last Guardian. Like that's probably in terms of
good game.
A pet in a game that is both realistic and used for gameplay. Like it's like Trico gets a little. Sometimes it doesn't always do what you ask it to do, which is like a real pet.
Absolutely.
Right. So that can be frustrating, and it's sometimes trying to figure out what it wants. It can be frustrating. So our goal was to, because the Falcon is so much part of the gameplay mechanics, is to find a balance between the bird have its own interests. It'll circle around sometimes, and if it gets bored, it'll go hunt, or it'll go sit down somewhere, or it'll go perch. Or it'll look at you or look at food. Like if you're holding the bird and there's food, it'll look at the food more, right? So there's things that we wanted to, there's behaviors to the AI of the bird that it's more automated. But if you tell it to go hunt, we want it to go hunt, right? So
this sounds incredible.
Part of that is finding that balance between like a thing that I can control and a thing that has a brain of its own, right? So that's, so Last Guardian was definitely an inspiration. The horse in any of the Zelda games is also really, really interesting for me too as a player. The horse,
creating that bond between like the AI partner and the player.
Yeah.
Right.
Epona.
Yeah.
Epona
is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the horse. Yep. So those were some of them. And then we just looked at like cat behavior and dog behavior, and we kind of mix some of that stuff. I mean, obviously, real falcons don't, fist bump, but
are you sure?
As far as I know,
exactly.
They don't, but,
it's just not been documented. Great question,
LSB. Thank you.
Hi, I'm SalsaKetchup from SalsaKetchup VR. I was kind of like looking at a lot of different things that he was doing with the physicality of the game as well. And it's something that I've seen as a developing trend. Is it something that you saw as well before you started doing too much and thought more about the physicality in building connections in the game and in VR? How much have you thought about that sort of aspect of building connections in VR?
Yeah, I mean, that's something we did with the first two games, right? Like with Dino Frontier, everything, the whole interface to the world is you picking up settlers and putting them in jobs, or you have a palette that is your interface that you put buildings down. And then, so I think for VR, that's, what's really neat about it, right? Like you're directly manipulating the world. And the more we can remove sort of the abstractions of that is, for me, the more interesting things are. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I was thinking about how you use that to build an emotional connection to a player and just heighten that experience of real. It's sort of like also, because you've got the flat version of the game as well, how that plays across as a flat version of the game, how you feel you can incorporate that as well to the non-VR aspect as well as you can to the VR, if it translates quite well.
It does translate because so instead of you doing it yourself, and there's a really nice scripted animation moments, like when you're feeding the bird, when you're petting the bird, when you're fist bumping. Like for example, at PAX, this past PAX, we had both the VR version and non-VR version, side by side, and people were still engaged because I think the animation and the character and the feathers and the visuals are strong enough where they feel like the bird is a character, not just an animated thing, you know?
Kind of like Tamagotchi. People used to feel like they had to care for it, and
yeah. So the way it responds, the sounds, just its idles is enough feedback that it feels like a thing. I mean, it feels like a creature, not just like an animated AI thing, right?
Yeah,
so
cool.
I feel like we have a great animator. He's been with me for, I don't know, 4 companies now, the last 15 years, and like
I've been looking at your blogs, so it's like seeing how you've built animation layers and ideas, and as Shannon said about the feathers and the animations and the ball movement and all of that stuff.
And that's all him, and yeah, it's super brilliant. Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, all that, the subtleties of that I don't think people, like, players will typically, you know, pick up on it, but they'll pick up like, oh, this feels right. You know, they don't know why, but that's our goal. Is like, there's a lot of work that goes into making that feel right. Hopefully, you know, when the bird lands on a perch or lands on your hand the first time. So I've been playtesting the game with new people recently, and so like the first time when you whistle for the bird and it lands on your hand is a big moment. Like, I think we've done it. I feel like we've done our job well, because everyone's like, "Oh my God, look at this bird!" You know. So
when you do the whole whistle for the bird, can you actually whistle for the bird?
So you put your hand close to your headset, and it'll change the hand to a whistle pose. So when you pull the trigger, it'll actually whistle.
Gotcha.
I was going to say, can you actually do an audio whistle as an actual from the mic and pick up?
So we did look into that, but there's too much background noise and it's unpredictable. So we wanted something more like predictable.
Regular, predictable.
Yeah.
Sounds okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Salsa.
And some people can't whistle.
Oh yeah, that's true, man.
Good show, actually.
Apparently, it's a dying trend, whistling. Just a random fact.
Thank you for your question.
The question I've got is, I mean, first of all, awesome job with the trailer. It shows a lot of the ideas you've got there.
Yay.
But then, what my thing is it Falcons are just used for combat? Because I've seen it like, you've got a stick does that to stun the robots, and you send the Hawk into attack, or?
Yeah, so the mechanics are a combination of what the bird can do and what you can do. So when we first started the game, the bird was doing everything. And then we're like, well, what's the point of you as the character, right? So we wanted to introduce this balance between what you do well and what the bird does well. So the baton that you have is a short-range stun baton. So essentially, so like there's these drones that fly in that you can't reach, right? So you send the bird to knock it out of the sky, and you can go and whack it to destroy it. Right? So, I mean, eventually the bird you can upgrade the equipment on the bird where it can do that too, but initially that's like, there's a partnership. And then in the trailer, there's these turrets that shoot these needles, anti-air turrets. And so the bird will get hurt. So you have to go in and then, you know, jab the baton into a panel to destroy it, so the bird can get past. So there's this balance and mechanics around the balance of that to get to the game.
Nice.
So did this sort of come into mind with obviously as the protagonist you're looking at for the Falcon, but also you've got to build a bond with the Falcon because it's also protecting you in a way?
It's protecting you. It's protecting the bird too, right? So like, I think in the trailer we did a shot where we're pulling the needles out. And so part of that is healing, you know, and you can pet it. Petting will heal the bird.
Nice.
And then you can cook it snacks, and there's a whole farming cooking mechanic where you're gathering ingredients like rabbit meat and different vegetables, and you put it in this cooker and it makes little snacks for the bird.
So Breath of the Wild, man. That is savage. That is savage.
Yeah, and then.
Sorry, go ahead.
And those snacks are sometimes health, sometimes a speed boost, sometimes armor kind of things that are like temporary buffs for the bird.
Yes, like in the trailer, I realised one of the things you cooked was like a
cross shape, is that a health stack? Because it's got the cross for like a health.
Right, exactly. So you make like different like dumplings and buns for the bird that you feed him. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. I'll pass the mic on.
Thank you, VR Realm.
Not letting me grab it now.
Oh, there we go.
Way to drop the mic.
Ready?
Hey, I've got it.
Bring it out.
Hey, how's it going? First of all, congratulations. The game looks absolutely brilliant.
Thank you very much.
I just wondered, was there any plans to release a demo like the last 2 VR titles you've done?
Yeah, I think I like the idea of doing that. Do you guys like the demos? Just test things out?
Yeah, demos are great,
Yeah. I thought so too, and I think, like I love that we were able to be on the 2 demo discs previously, and we like to do a demo for this one too. So.
Superb.
We have to work that with Sony's plans and things like that, but we already have a demo because we make demo builds. I like making demo builds. It forces us to focus on like experience. And then one of the reasons I love doing shows, we've done 2 shows, PAX and then Day of the Devs. It's humbling to watch people that never played your game play through it, and you're like, oh no, it's so broken.
Oh man.
And it's
like what happened earlier.
Actually, I do have one story I want to mention. The result of the demo. We did our PAX demo. Like I said, we had a VR version and the non-VR side by side. People were playing through it. We had a lot of people that had never played games at all that wanted to just play with the bird and play, just hang out with the bird. So one of the things we're doing is we're going to ship with an exploration mode. Essentially, I don't have a good name for it yet. I think it's called challenge free mode. Essentially, you can run around and do all the things you want. It plays the game same way. It's just the enemies don't see you.
Oh right.
Oh right, cool.
So it's you can attack them, but they won't attack you, and that's the thing. And you can still do all the hunting. You can do all play through the whole game, play through the story. But if you want to just play around with the bird, that's a different mode.
That's great for demonstration.
That sounds that sounds great.
Fantastic.
So if you want to demo to your family or your sisters or your brothers or
cousins,
your aunties and uncles.
Yeah. Thank you, DJ.
Yeah, thanks very much. Trying to pass that now.
Oh, sorry, man.
You got it?
Hello, I'm Taz from Taznic Gaming. I represent the New Zealand audience. Long for our way. Now, I have a couple of questions. I've been looking into I watched your trailer. I've watched a couple other things as well, and went onto your website bit that you had as well. Now, I see you've actually done something a little bit different here, and like say the likes of Doom and things like that, you've got a health bar. I noticed you've got the bird shows the damage instead, and it, I guess if you will, disintegrates or something, I guess. Can you explain more about that system to us?
So there are water fountains throughout the game, or like water pumps, like a desert water pumps. Those are our save spots, right? So they're scattered throughout in between combat areas and certain areas in the game. So if you essentially when you die in the game, it fades out and then you respawn at one of those stations, like in BioShock or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so really, before going into these refineries are what you're trying to take over, or reclaim. So before each refinery, you go to a safe spot, and then you can, go through it. And if you die halfway or you get captured, whatever, it respawns you back.
What causes you to die? If the bird dies, or the player dies, or how does that?
No, the bird in regular combat will get so hurt that it'll fly back to you and won't be able to fly around anymore. So it'll try to stay close to you and just either perch on the ground or perch near you till you heal it and remove the needles and feed it. It won't, in regular combat, it won't actually die. It's a player that will die.
Yeah.
Or will, pass out essentially. So, and the reason for that is, again, a mechanics balance, gameplay balance thing is you can't control where the bird is going to be all the time. So it's more like, you know, when the bird died, it didn't feel as good because you didn't know what happened. So just having the player to be the one that's responsible for death and respawning felt better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So is there going to be trophy support? I know we all love trophies. Is there going to be some sort of trophy support integrated into the game?
Yeah, it's already integrated in the game. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, that's all good.
Well, I'm going to add on to that.
Just,
So
I noticed.
Go on.
The other thing, I see you've done something new with the direct sunlight. When you go to capture your prey using the bird, how hard was it to try and get like the light behind you that can cause you obviously to miss the prey? And I think there was something that ran through a hole or something like that I read. Was that hard to do or was that simple?
I mean, we know where the sun is. It's like calculating where the sun is and where you are and where the prey is looking. So we already have all that data. So some of the prey, like the rabbits, are fast, and so a little faster than the bird at times. I mean the early bird. So part of that is again this balance of what you do and what the player can do. So like you go up to a hole and chase a rabbit out, and then you send the bird to capture it, right?
Oh, nice.
And then it's sometimes and there's other holes that it go into. So it's again we're trying to like wherever you go, we're trying to sort of have this manage of what you can do, what the bird can do, and have you work together to accomplish whatever you need to do at the time.
Excellent.
Awesome. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you could actually work together, like say with the Falcon, like when the Falcon's going for something, whether you could help integrate as well using the baton, which can be a whip apparently as well.
Yeah, and then later in the game you get this whip upgrade that your auntie built, so you can whip things. Like we wanted a way to grab things and to also there's like these gates that you can whip, and there's things you can pick up from a distance, and it's just fun mechanic in VR just to whip things.
Whipping is cool.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's what I saw when I was looking at it. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you very much for that. Much appreciated.
No problem.
Thank you, Taz.
I love everybody just dropping the mic after. It's like
done.
Done.
First off, looks a really interesting game. Looks amazing, and gotta say, thanks for your work on Morrowind. One of my favourite all-time games. Absolutely loved it.
Thank you.
Right, how long is the playthrough of your game going to be? Is it a shorter experience, or is it likely to be a longer game?
We don't know. So we're still working on it. We're getting near the end of development, but this is sort of the part where we're play testing, balancing, and seeing. I've had to guess right now it's probably 4 to 6 hours of game. That's if you're just playing through the story, but there's there's a tons of hidden stuff and things you can find. Because, like I said, the gating mechanic for the game is the equipment that you acquire for the bird.
Oh,
so
right, that's your level progression.
So there may be parts... Right, that's your level progression. So it's like a Zelda item, right? So there's parts of the world, like... There's a landmine field here you can't cross.
Yeah.
Till somebody helps you build a sonar backpack for your bird. Right? So now the bird can see where the landmines are, and then you can navigate around it.
Oh, that's clever. That's clever.
Right, and then so that, and there may be optional areas that are filled with landmine and that might have some treasure or other hidden things in there. Right, so there's sort of like the main path, and then there's the rest of the valley is it's not a huge area, right? I mean, I say sandbox, but it's a small area, like say Firewatch scale of a map. But you're free to roam as long as you have the equipment that allows you to unlock that area.
Oh, nice. So, and there will be reasons to want to come back, like once you've played it through, to find other areas and other things.
Yeah, I mean it's like a theme park, right? In a way, and functionally, like you have a starting area, you have sort of like a hub, and then there's spokes that go out, and you come back.
Yeah.
And then as the story progresses, that hub might change to a different spot for a little while and then come back. So we end up kind of revisiting areas. So.
Obviously, games like Moss have shown how important the connection between, if you've got an animal or pet or whatever, you can get a really good connection that, makes a lasting impression on people. And, you know,
yeah, I mean,
well said.
Gonna be the same.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the first time we, again, we weren't sure if it was going to work, but the first time we prototyped it, I think I just downloaded a bunch of assets off the Unity asset store, by the way, which is a great way to start prototyping. So we had this generic, eagle model, and we just got the basic sort of flying around. Oh, by the way, as you walk around, the bird will always hover around you, so it'll follow you wherever you are. So you don't have to tell it to always go somewhere, right? It tries to stay with you. So the first time we were able to whistle and have the bird, like, it was in a, small in the distance, and it flew right in and then landed. So that scale change in VR was just super compelling, right? And, like, comes in with the wings flapping and all that stuff, and I was like, okay, I think we have something here. So that's something I don't think I've seen too much in a first-person game, where you have this interaction at a distance, medium level, and also this super close interaction. And that change, the depth change is really interesting.
The Last Guardian demo, they did like a VR. I don't know if you've seen that VR demo.
Yeah.
And I hadn't played The Last Guardian, and Chico is it that whatever it is, that big thing, and it was right up in the ceiling, and you don't get you call it, and then when it jumps down, and it is huge, and that's absolute jaw-dropping moments.
Yeah. And the weight of that, I mean, the animation on that thing and the AI on that thing is amazing. Thank you.
Superb, Wolfie. Thank you very much.
Nice.
Thank you.
I got it.
He's a pro. He's a pro.
Yay,
He's a pro. He knows what to do on microphone.
He knows what he's doing. He's been here before.
Check. My name's God Cannon. I'm from PSVR Underground. I'm a huge animal lover, so really excited for this game. The first day I saw it, the trailer, I was just... but two of these have kind of already been answered, but wanted to just clarify a little bit. So you mentioned that there was kind of like a free mode where you can't get attacked by anything. Aside from that, are there any difficulty levels for the main campaign?
No, because it's the flow of the story. We change the progression of the sort of difficulty as we go. So.
Okay, which makes sense. But the idea of the mode that you mentioned is great. Something for people with friends and family. The other question that was kind of answered was the trophy support. There's going to be trophies. Is there going to be a platinum trophy?
Yes, it's platinum.
Hey,
yeah.
That is God Cannon's business right there. Mexican
we're
wave.
really excited for that. It gives you more to do in the game, more playtime in it. So love having the option. And speaking of options, with the move support, the movement, what kind of options do you guys have in terms of locomotion, like full locomotion, teleport, blinders, optional? Just curious as to what options we have.
Yeah, so right, so we start with teleshift, so it draws a line, and then you let go of the button, it zooms you there, and then we kind of do a blink while you do that. So that's one option. You can turn on smooth move, so you hold the move button down, and then you can walk around the world. And then you also have stick rotation, or move button rotation to snap, but you can just do free rotation on that too. So you can free turn on with one controller and then move with the other. So full FPS controls on the move controls.
That's excellent. So basically you have all the different options, whether you want them like the comfort options or not.
Yeah, so right now we default onto comfort mode. And we'll try to do a better job of trying to expose that, to show you, make sure you go in the options. You can turn things on and off and whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I think
Borderlands
play the game, taught everyone that it needs to be a bit more clear cut, and the titles of everything need to be something that everyone understands. If smooth turning is now smooth turning. I can't remember what Borderlands called it, to be honest, but no one understood what it meant.
Right. That's actually good. I should talk to you guys afterwards about this. Just to make sure, we have the right terms.
People here, yeah.
We'll give you some feedback.
Terms,
Yeah, but the thing is, especially for VR, it's there are hardcore players, and really, if you guys don't like it, you're not going to think about it to other people that aren't, as they want a recommendation for the game, right? So that's the important thing. So.
Superb.
But that's it. Yeah, thank you so much. Really looking forward to the release. Can't wait.
No
Great
problem.
question,
Thank you.
Kenneth. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just drop it.
Oh, he's got it.
Look at that.
Not a pro, but I'll take that. That's good. Hello there. Yeah, Recarn VR here. The game is coming out flat game, 2D, as well as VR. Was the game always envisioned as a VR game, or was that come after the first initial development?
So, like I said, it's our third VR game as a team, and it started as a VR game. We did I think I'm going to start calling screen mode instead of flat. I've been calling it flat, but I think Rec Room calls it screen, and I like that. So the screen mode we added as a way for development. So my typical day when I'm working in Unity, we use Unity, is lay out a level, put my headset on, test, take it off, edit, put it on, test, take it off, right? So a lot of back and forth, and you do that 100 times a day or more. It kind of slows it down, the process. So we added a 2D mode just so we can like just run through quickly and test certain things. And then I was like, well, what if we extended that, and what it would be like to make a full flat version? And it's a lot of work. I mean, we're pretty comfortable doing VR games, and then before that, we were pretty comfortable doing standard screen games too. So we knew what it was involved. So that means, fully animating the character, right? So when you don't have a VR headset on and you're doing on the screen mode, you can look down and see your full body, and there's arms and legs, and you see your head in the shadow, all that stuff. And then for everything the bird does, the interaction, there's fully animated things. So we wouldn't have tried it if we hadn't done sort of that level of production before, because there's everything you add, it has to work in both modes, right? Or it has to be it's something that translates in both modes, right? Like the interface, like when you're at the cooker, when you're cooking snacks, right? In VR mode, we put up your sort of inventory, and you're grabbing ingredients and dropping it in, right? In non-VR mode, those get dropped in automatically, right? So it's like how do you deal with different things like that? So, but we did it early enough where we designed for that in mind. And actually, a lot of things we had to think about for flat ended up helping us figure out issues in VR. Like how do you fist bump in VR versus how do you fist bump in flat? So actually, one mode certainly helped the other mode helped. It helped the game get better. Yeah, and then for iterating on level design and level layout, the flat mode was just a great way to just lay things out and do what you see. So it started as a game development tool, and then we decided to fully commit to it. Again, like at PAX, just seeing people that can play in VR, that can, and some people just cannot play in VR at all because of motion sickness issues. It was good to have that option.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
No.
I was gonna say, like, it's with the game, like it's one game, right? So if you have PlayStation VR, great, you can play in VR. But if you also have, if you don't, both modes are. It's not like we're sending two different packages, right? It's just one game that supports
the same game in both.
The same game, so yeah.
Brilliant. So with the bird, do you have like a companion level? I don't know what else to call it, where you've got to friend it more, treat it right, or
like a love meter sort of thing that fills up.
Like an attitude bar.
Tamagotchi mode.
If you don't feed it, will it get angry?
I mean, it'll certainly get hungry, and things like that. But it's not like a super simulation, right? Like, again, as a small team, we kind of say like what we're trying to build, right? What's the scope? Because you can go down the path of just like a full on
it must be hard
simulation. Yeah. So for us, it was like the experience of having the bird, the bonding, and then there's this like narrative arc through the whole game with some sandboxy things, sort of like that's sort of where we are. So there's certain things like it's not like a Sims version of the bird, which I think would be cool actually, but we don't go super deep, right? There's
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have one bird through the life of the game, or can unfortunately the bad thing happen where your bird dies and you can get a different bird?
There's one bird.
One bird.
Yeah.
I don't like them die. Opponent stays with me till the end is older.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So actually, the other thing I should mention is, so the course is a regular game. You start with the baby bird, right?
Is that from egg? Like, is it or?
No, it's pretty much an egg, but it's not from an egg. It's the younger bird. There's something happens to it. And we're not going to talk about that, but
spoiler.
But I mean, there's moments in the beginning of the game where you're bonding with it and teaching it to fetch and things like that. And then the rest of the game is played as an adult. One of the things we did do for the exploration mode is when you start exploration mode, you have a hat you can put on the adult bird to turn it back into a baby bird anytime in the game. So the game, so for all the equipment, all the hats, all the scarves, they work on both birds, and the game is fully playable as a baby bird or adult bird.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh, that's good.
And in the regular game,
That's cool.
the baby bird hat is hidden, so you can find it, but you don't start with it. So.
Pray for you for that, God.
Nice.
Brilliant.
That's it. I'm good.
Thank you very much, Recarn. Cheers. So that just leaves me with a
Fantastic.
couple more questions. Is there going to be a physical release of this game? Do you know?
So we're talking about it. I've had a couple of people like Limited Run approach us about it. Right now, it's just like it's another thing we'll probably think about post-release.
Yeah. A lot of developers do that to see how things go. So that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, there's a certain amount of commitment, financial commitment you need to do for physical, and I like this game could sell 0, and it would be bad for us to also have a physical copy. So we kind of have to approach it small and see how it does, and then go from there.
Absolutely. And any hints on a release date? Any time or?
We're sort of in the late stages of it right now. I don't know the release date yet, just because we haven't set one yet. But it's going to be earlier in the year, not later in the year. I'll say that. So.
Yeah, that's cool.
We'll announce it as soon as we can.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Is
go
it
ahead.
going to be released in Europe and USA at the same time, or is it a staggered release?
Yes.
Great question.
For Dino, we did Americas. Actually, all three. I think we did. We'll do Americas and Europe and Asia. With Sony, it's like 3 different groups, so we have to kind of work through all of them. But we'll try to do all it, as much as close to each other as possible.
It's so frustrating when games come out in the US and you see people playing them and you want to stream it. Home Sweet Home still hasn't been released. It's been out for months, and I can't wait to play the game, and it drives me up the wall.
Yeah. with our plan is to release both.
Is there a cost issue with bringing it to all the different? I mean, is it the rating? Is it the game rating that causes the issues?
Well, the game rating can take some time, but it's mostly just like there's a whole process that I deal with. We deal with Sony Europe to go through that, and then translating it. And then because every region kind of wants like, oh, we want subtitles. No, we want localized things and this and that. So as a small team, it just kind of like we've done it twice now, so we kind of have it down. So
and how long has this been in development for?
So from concept to now, I'd say 1.5 years or longer. Concept's a couple years old. But when we actually start prototyping it to now, probably 1.5 years or so.
Superb. Right, excellent. Everyone happy?
Fantastic, yeah, clap.
Amazing LSB looks like he's got one more question by the looks of it.
Yeah. Can I just have a couple of questions?
Can you give him the mic for us, Recarn? Is that alright? So he's nice and loud. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'll get you the mic.
Good task.
It's by Salsa.
Did you get it?
You got under the table.
There we are.
Well done.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions. With so many VR releases coming out these days, ones that aren't like VR pasted games, like something like Borderlands or something like Skyrim where you have like literally between 60 and 100 hours of gameplay. We see so many VR releases that are short, and I was just wondering exactly like how long we're talking about in terms of game length. How many hours can we expect to get out of the game?
It's a pretty short experience. I mean, it's probably going to be 4 to 6 hours, I think, maybe more. But again, like we're balancing right now, so I don't know what it is yet.
And then I just have one other question versus price structure. What are you guys looking to sell this for?
It'll be, I don't know, probably in the $20 range for US.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, LSB. Gentlemen, thank you everyone for turning up. Thank you to Eka for being here today. Excellent, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man. Are you going to take the bird with you?
I'll fix that. I'll fix that. Is it? Let me see. Is it on me now? One sec.
Superb.
You mentioned. Right. I'd also like to say that I have a deep connection with the character, as my aunt also lives in a trailer.
Oh man. Well, thank you everyone for watching today. Episode 1 of the GTVR Developer Report.
You guys have terms that you like,
and I'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Yeah.